Well, it's a hard rain, it's a purple rain. Taps the levee and leaves.
Hey, everybody. It's Mark Finkelpearl, and there he is, the esteemed Jeffrey Himes. Swamp Dogg is our guest on Hard Rain and Pink Cadillacs today. And Swamp Dogg may not be a household name. In fact, you may have never heard of the guy, but in reality, he's a very interesting, I'd call him a Zelig-like figure in the last 60 years of popular music. He's worked as a songwriter, as a musician. He's worked as a producer. He's worked as a manager in the music business. He's worked in A&R. He's worked as a label head. He's worked with a lot of people who you do know and who you have heard of. And a really interesting guy in that respect. He's done it all. So, Jeffrey, what do we need to know about Swamp Dogg before we go to this interview?
Yeah, even though he's not a household name, as you say, he's had his fingers in a lot of different musical pies and a lot of fascinating musical connections. He was born Jerry Williams. He had some R&B hits himself. He wrote and produced R&B hits for like Doris Duke and other artists, Patti LaBelle. And in 1970, he relaunched his career under a new persona that he invented called Swamp Dogg. He was the first person to spell dog, D-O-G-G, before Snoop Dogg and the rest of them were even born. He pioneered this sort of like crazy funk, soul, country hybrid, sort of like George Clinton had been, grown up in the rural South. And he later in life, he developed a strong friendship and partnership with John Prine, turned John Prine's famous song, Sam Stone, into his own single that became a minor hit and became a sort of extravagant, sort of 20-minute, church sermon preaching extravaganza in his live shows. He's since done duets with John Prine. There's a John Prine song on his new album. Jenny Lewis, Bon Iver, Marco Price have all worked with him. And so we're going to talk about all this and a lot more. But he's a guy that, I think, as you said at one point, is a Zelig character who's always present at the middle of whatever interesting going on. So here it is.
Swamp Dogg, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on Hard Rain and Pink Cadillacs.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
We're loving the new record. We're going to talk about that. It's a record that has a lot to do with death, which we'll get to. But Jeffrey, you take it away for the moment.
All right. Yeah, I just want to tell our listeners that Swamp Dogg may not be in every tabloid in the grocery store, but he's been an influential figure in popular music for many decades, and both as a songwriter and a producer and a singer himself, working as both Jerry Williams, his birth name, and as Swamp Dogg, the character he created, and had, done many different things, very sort of wild funk things and sort of country soul fusions, and his own sort of distinctive, musical preaching, we might call it. But what I wanted to start with is, on this new album, you sing a duet with Gary U.S. Bonds, who's also known as Gary Anderson, and you've had a long history with him. And can you talk a little bit? I understand you grew up near each other, and why has he been such a good friend and reliable partner over all this time?
Well, it was mainly because we found that we were living about not even a block apart in Portsmouth, Virginia. And he had moved from Norfolk to Portsmouth. And I kept seeing this Cadillac, and it wasn't a real Cadillac neighborhood, and so I stood there and I saw him. He got out of his car. So I went over and introduced myself. I don't think he'd ever heard of me, but naturally I had heard of him. And we started talking and started talking about writing songs and that kind of thing. And yeah, well, get back to me, I'll get back to you, that kind of thing. And we developed a relationship because I kept running by his house because I was really interested in recording him. I always thought that um, it, I just always felt like I wish I had a chance to record him. That's all, and I did.
Can you talk, was this a situation where, one person's doing most of the music and one person's doing the words, or you're both doing both? And, what were the, roles you had and what made you so effective in working together?
We were doing both.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing both. We start off usually with a lyrics, a title or something that would paint a whole picture, like to the other woman, I'm the other woman.
Mm-hmm.
That right away there's something you want to dig deeper into. So, well, what are they talking about here? And we make it clear, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And we did She's All I Got, everybody says it, so I'll say it. The Johnny Paycheck hit, but we sold 1 million also on a guy named Freddie North out of Nashville, who was on my Mankind label. Okay, I digress. So I don't know, Gary and I we just became good friends because we had a hell of a lot in common.
Right.
And
why that song, Wacka Wacka Wacka? It's a real strong New Orleans sound, the horns and the sort of Professor Longhair piano. And why was that a good vehicle for the two of you to get back together?
Okay, first of all, one of Gary's earliest smashes was New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to do something like similar to what he had done and had hits with, and that I never did. So I put us together, and Waka Waka reminded me of something that he would have done. And it comes from a friend of mine who was an executive over at Motown and at 20th Century Records, named Delta Ashby. She was a lot of everybody's go-to. That's who people shared secrets with and so forth, and including myself. But she never would tell you anything. She would listen, but then when you got ready to go out, you said, "Well, what about Jeffrey? What did he say?" She said she would never tell you anything about anybody else. And she said, "Oh, yeah, waka waka waka," and she, which meant you weren't gonna get any more information other than something about yourself. So that's she's gone now, but that always stayed with me. That waka waka. Somebody start asking me something that I just didn't want to get into. Waka waka.
Swamp, you talk about Gary U.S. Bonds. There are a couple of other really interesting choices you made on this record, which is called Swamp Dogg Contemplates the Afterlife. And those are your choices of covers on this record. You cover Please Don't Bury Me by John Prine, but also very interestingly Acid Tongue by Jenny Lewis, which is really, first of all, a great song, and a song about an LSD trip in to a certain degree. I think the mark of a great cover really is, do you transcend it? Do you transcend the original? And at the same time, can you make the audience who may not know anything about the record think that you wrote it yourself? And I think in Acid Tongue, you do that. Why did you choose that? What's your relationship to Jenny, if any?
Well, the last I just with the album still out. I did an album on Old Boy uh called
Black
uh
Grass,
yeah, Black Grass from
right?
120 from
West Virginia.
West Virginia to 125th Street. I can't remember my titles anymore. Uh and and Jenny Lewis did a duet with me.
Mhm.
I was introduced to her through my co-producer, Ryan Olson, and we like sat down. We were like I liked the way she worked. She liked the way I worked. So as I was putting the album together, uh, we got her to agree on this thing, which I had a hit on in the '60s by um, Inez and Charlie Fox. I don't know if you remember them, but
Hmm.
I had a thing. The last chart hit was "If you don't believe I'm leaving, count the days I'm gone." You know, Gary and I we wrote that together. Uh, we had a ball, man. We had recreational things that we would do musically, music recreation. Like we created a thing where like here we go with death. We would we would write about artists who were really well known and still alive doing what they do, but we wrote songs about them uh, as though they had passed on. You know, it would be like, and we say, and the late great Jackie Wilson, he would say it like this, blah 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 blah. You know, Nat King Cole would, whatever. And I don't know, we found pleasure in that along with some Johnny Walker Black. Uh, we had a ball.
So it seems to me like there's a couple other commonalities you have with Gary, which is you both had you both took on a stage name that's different from your birth name. You both had partnerships with unlikely partners. Gary with Bruce Springsteen, you with John Prine, and can you talk about some of those parallels in your two careers?
I never thought of that. You know, you're right. Uh, Seemed like that's just something that happened naturally. Because I think he wasn't looking for Bruce Springsteen, but Springsteen was looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, John Prine, the same thing, because it was around the same time. Uh, I went to when I went to work for Atlantic as A&R. John was on Atlantic Records at the time that I was working there, and he had cut Sam Stone, which still to me is one of the greatest songs ever written. And I mean, it tells the full story of what's still going on, and that actually was my biggest hit as Swamp Dogg. I had Mama's Baby, Daddy's Maybe, which did great on the R&B charts, but this one did a little pop thing, which is no longer pop. I forgot what it is. Every morning I wake up, I wonder what I am, who I am, see what anyone has named
That's
it.
a problem having two names.
I know. But wait a minute now, where was I? Where was I?
We're talking about John Prine in Atlantic.
Yeah, right. So John and his manager, they came to my office because Jerry Wexler had sent them, excuse me, down to me to see if I wanted to get involved with John and his manager. and which I still don't understand exactly why, because he was like real country folk, and I was supposed to be heading up black music, you know. But uh, what I heard when he came to my office was a great songwriter. I said, "Ooh, this guy can write. Ooh, this song is great." And I said, "I'm gonna hold this song." But I knew as a producer, I couldn't do him justice because although I had been raised up with country music, not on country music, but with country music, and there was a lot of it in my life,
Mhm.
I wasn't sure of what I could do, which turned out to be a real good blessing for John because without messing with me, he ended up with several hit albums. So, which still are hitting today. So it's
Before
good.
before you go on, Swamp, can you talk a little bit about growing up in the South, in the 40s and 50s, and that the boundary between Southern soul music and country music was not as high offense as we think it was. Like Arthur Alexander. There's lots of examples of people who were doing both, combining them. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. There was, it's weird because the country standout person was D. Ford Bailey, who was black or colored or Negro or something. That was, I love that. I can be anything. Uh, he, I mean, the first person that was voted into country music happened to be a black man, and which to me showed the 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 light on it was there wasn't really as much prejudice. I know it was a lot, but there wasn't as much as people in other areas of the country thought. Now, this is me talking, I might be talking through my hat,
But
but
isn't it true that for somehow musicians were able to mix better than a lot of other people down south?
oh yeah, yeah. Uh, we've always been able, and I consider myself a musician. I didn't say it great, but a pretty good musician. Uh, all through, uh, I don't know, all through my life, I've seen uh, interracial music situations, um, people being accepted. Take, for instance, Louis Jordan, who was one of my idols. Uh, he was like, he had as much of a white audience as he did a black audience, and he played like Paramount Theater in in New York, even though he played the Apollo Theater.
40, 50 years ago, it's been reported you were taken, there were royalties that were owed to you that never came your way that you had to fight for. Today we have a music economy where if you take a 4-minute song and you put it on one of the streaming services, you have to play that song 4 days in a row, 24 hours a day to get $5.
Mhm.
What's your take on the industry that you embraced and decided to walk through for the last 60 years?
Well, as far as getting paid, um, a lot of us didn't get paid, and there are times now that you don't get paid. I just saw yesterday in the Billboard that Jermaine Dupri was suing Sony for $18 million because he didn't get paid for Mariah Carey and some other superstar. And it's still going on. As a matter of fact, I think it's worse if it's not going to even worse, because nowadays you can't tell how well your record is doing. When they send out statements now, at statement time, all they send you now is a check with some numbers. But they don't tell you what it was. The only society that does that is BMI. I'm going to assume ASCAP, but I'm not saying it because I don't know for sure. But I know BMI gives you, they identify everything that you did and how much money came in, how much they're going to take away from it, which is very little. You don't know if you went gold unless, if you get paid for gold, then you went platinum, maybe more. And there's no way to check it. No check, no balances, no nothing. Just be happy.
We were talking about John Prine and Sam Stone a while ago, and when you decided to do the song yourself, what did you think that you could add to John's version that made it worth, a new recording? And I mean, to me, it seems like it takes it into the sort of the black church in a lot of ways.
To be real honest with you, all I heard was a great song. I don't do anybody else's material unless it's something I wish I had written or that I can add something to, that I can bring another dimension to it. And if I can't add another dimension to it, I won't bother it. I'll just continue to listen to it, its original source. Yeah. But
can you put into words what you felt that you could add to the Sam Stone?
I don't think there's a word about it, but I'm saying believability. I made it a little bit more commercial than John's. Although John's, everybody did it, Johnny Cash and all. I didn't even realize how many people had done it when I did it.
Right.
And it jumped on the charts. And we had a chance to attempt to wake up people about the Vietnamese War, about the crooked politicians, because that didn't help my career any. I've always been obsessed with death, how to duck it, right? But I'm finding there's no way to duck it. So I'm thinking towards what can I leave back here, and how close I am to it. I'm gonna be 84 the 12th of this month, and I think after I did it, it was almost like a cleansing. I just accepted it, not completely. I'll never accept it completely. So when you see me laying there, and you say, boy, I know he's happy now. Bullshit. I do not want to go. But hey, when you find out you gotta go, just like your mama when you were going to school, something you didn't want to wear. She said, hey, you're gonna wear this or you ain't gonna wear nothing, So you put it on, you go on to school. Well,
it's like that song on the album, coming in for the final approach.
Yeah,
You're like song to tell. So it's like you're on an airplane coming in for landing, but obviously it's
yeah,
also about more than that, about coming
yeah,
to the end of life. And
yeah. You
talk
come.
about that song.
It's uh, the idea was uh, Sam Hollander's idea, and my uh, my girlfriend, she loved the idea. I got into it that I wrote all of the music, and all I had to do, they're two great songwriters. So it was very easy for me to click in with what they were doing. But uh, the I think there's what they came up with lyrically was just about all of me, and lyrics were about 80% them. But we all had the same thing in mind where we wanted to go. That was the first time I'd ever written with Sam, but I liked the way he worked. And I'm looking forward to doing some more stuff. Uh, my girlfriend and I, Danielle Graves, she she had she had just as much say so as Sam.
Right.
Uh,
But in the song, you talk about, you're coming in for the landing, but then once you land, there's another land to explore. What do you think you were trying to get at in that part?
well, a new life, if you can call it life, I mean, we're talking death here. Uh, I tried to brighten it up verbally a little bit. I just didn't want to depress people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but nevertheless, I couldn't help but uh, pushing to record it. I love it, and the first couple of times I heard it back, it brought tears to my eyes, and I had to like switch screens. I said, I can't do this.
I mean,
Sam.
that's always a problem when you're writing and singing about death. Is how do you like be honest about it without you know you know being a killjoy or.
But most people that I have run into and talked to about death all through the years, they say things like, I'm ready to go, well, I ain't ready to go, and I just wonder what would happen if the Lord took the top off the church one Sunday and said, okay, everybody who's ready to go, come on. You'd see motherfuckers running out that place. I know they would, you know, I'd be in front. But now,
But on the other hand, on the first song on the album, "Searching for Heaven," you
mhm,
know, you're sort of saying what you wrote by yourself, I think.
yeah,
You're saying, if you're looking for heaven, go home to your family. That's where heaven
right.
is.
That's what it
Uh,
is.
You know,
And people are taking it as a spiritual, uh, but that's not the way I meant it.
on a song like that, you got the church-like organ, and the sort of like, church guitar, and then halfway through the horns come in, and you start going into the sort of preacher mode where you're telling, don't
Right.
be out there on the streets, go home and take care of your family. You know, what is it about that sort of, you know, uh, gospel church kind of experience from your childhood that comes out now and affects the music you do?
Well, I heard a lot of gospel music uh, growing up, especially on Sundays. Everybody had the radio on, and I enjoyed all genres of music. I like Dixieland,
Hmm.
uh, which if I get a chance, I'm gonna do some. Uh, I got a concept now that I'm working on, which is a Friends album, which I got all Margot Price, Willie Nelson. Uh, I got about 9 or 10 different people that I want to sing with.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Doing it. It's just I'm trying to leave a lot of things so people will know who I was. Those who give a shit, you know.
What's driving you? What's a day in the life of Swamp Dogg on a Wednesday? What are you going to do today?
Okay, well, I've got to get in touch with Old Boy Records and see how we can work out me working with all the artists that I have uh been talking to.
Hmm.
And matter of fact, I just had a podcast with Waylon Jennings' son.
Oh yeah, Shooter.
Yeah, Shooter. I always want to say Scooter for some reason. Yeah,
Well, he
Shooter.
wouldn't mind.
Right. Well,
No, he
uh,
might. I don't want to speak for him,
I
but yeah,
asked him,
Shooter Jennings on Sirius XM. That's a great show.
yeah. So I asked him to be on, and he said, okay. And there's uh, and Colleen Carter.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm working on songs between you know, duets, duos, or whatever you want to call it, and not really any single things. They we just one of my writers just finished up a song we were working on called Jackpot, and it's all about the guy who hit uh got $242 million, and from the and then all of a sudden he just kissed all his friends, family, uh employer. He just kissed them off only to find out he was lonely in a son of a bitch. So uh he keeps the money, but he goes back to his friends, family, and going and ask for his job back, the whole thing, because he found himself being alone. So that's that's where we
And
that's what
that's
we come.
called Jackpot. What's your process like? Do you get up every day and go out to the woodshed and write songs, or do songs just come to you when they come to you? How do you operate that way?
The second thing that you said, I I hear things. Somebody was just say something, and or I may stumble on something. Like was it, I can't think of my man's name. He had that thing, slipped, tripped, and fell in love.
Hmm.
About
Elvin
That's
Bishop.
it.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
Right away, if you hear the title, the rest of the song just falls in place. Like slip, trip, there's the action there, and fell in
Right.
love, the end result. Hey, then you just talk about it,
So in 1970, you adopted the name Slump Dog.
right?
And why did you invent this new character for making music? And how did you choose the name? And you know, did you feel like it was a different personality from your offstage personality?
Yeah. The there's two songs in my first album, Total Destruction to Your Mind, called uh Here's My Shoulder for you to go. Everything you'll ever need. Uh and if I die tomorrow, I've lived tonight. Well, actually, uh it was a DJ down in Macon, Georgia, named Hank Hamp, Hamp Swain. He was the big black jock down there. And he called me, he told me, he said, man, I got a girl that can she sing? And he said, man, can you do something on her? And I said, yeah. And I went to Macon and worked with her and took her in the studio. Everybody was happy with what I did. And then on my second trip to go in and mix, that's when she told me that she wasn't interested in singing. She just wanted to get married and raise children. Now, she was about 14 years old, right? I said, oh, this ain't going nowhere. So I talked it over with Hampton and so forth. He said, well, man, if she don't want to, she don't want to. So I went in the studio in Macon, Georgia, and put my voice on. And if you listen to the record, you can hear behind it because I was on the same track and there was a lot of
leakage.
leakage, right? And that's not the only one I heard like that, but I'm not going to go away. So I said, wow, I like these two things, but it really wasn't what I had in mind. It was closer to things that I had done on Cotillion Records while I was at Atlantic. And like I said, I put my voice on. And after I put my voice on, I came to LA and started shopping it around. And people liked them, but it was ain't quite sure, and they kept asking me, who is it? Who is it? And I said, I don't really want this to be me. So another acquaintance of mine, Wally Roker, he had Canyon Records. I'm skipping a little bit, but he heard it and he went, man, this is great. I want you to cut some other stuff. And I said, but this is not Jerry Williams. This is not little Jerry. This is not little Jerry Williams. And some kind of way, this is not a brilliant story, by the way. Some kind of way, the Dogg got in there. And okay, I went to Mickey Stevenson, who was heading up a label, and let him hear it. And he said, well, who's the artist, Jerry? I said, the Dogs or something like that. I don't totally remember what I did. And he said, well, what kind of dog? What kind of dog? What? Some kind of way. There was 3-4 people in the room. And some kind of way we came up with Swamp. This is not a great story, by the way. People think, like, hey, it was somebody handed it to him from the moon, It just, I said, yeah, that's cool. And it went on. He turned it down. Well, yeah, they're strong songs, but their only strength is the song that's around them. Like, wow, this is a relief. But they weren't lead off songs. I just all of that kind of adds up to how I became Swamp Dogg. It wasn't nothing brilliant,
We should point out that you were the first person to spell dog, D-O-G-G, but long before Snoop Dogg and Nate Dogg and the other dogs. And so you get credit for that. But what I'm curious about is, like, if you create this alternate persona, Swamp Dogg, and then so you're Jerry at home and you're Swamp Dogg on stage, how does that help divide yourself between the one who's like getting work done and the one that's sort of crazy and creative?
Well, it's just that Swamp Dogg would do things that Jerry Williams wouldn't dare to do because he's really a coward in a lot of respects. But I like the way Jerry Williams thinks, and he's back in his orbit where, like, he didn't know which way to go. Jerry Williams just could not, first of all, my competition out there was going to be Jackie Wilson, who I love, Chuck Jackson, Tommy Hunt, uh, people like that. They were tall, they were slender, they were handsome. I wasn't none of that, and they could sing. So I was going to always be a time killer, for Solomon Burke. I opened for Solomon, and uh, I just I was going to be a second banana. And as I got older, now I doubt if I would have had any peel of banana. It's I
You could have had a lot of appeal.
could have, but I wasn't. I was quite. The first album gave me confidence. The second album, which was Right On, out of Elektra, let me know that I was on the right path, and I have remained there. So, like I said, when I wrote that "God Bless America for What," there was so much turmoil. As a matter of fact, Elektra dropped me because of that. I mean, my contract wasn't up. It just got started. And I think the first order they had for the record was something like about 25,000 around the whole country, with the distributors. And they didn't ship it all. And they actually had taken me off the roster, and I didn't even know it, because we were doing things like I said, free the army and running around with Dick Gregory and uh, Jane Fonda and just
And on the cover, you're riding a giant white rat.
yeah. And see, again, people would ask me, say, "Well, what's the purpose of the rat?" I said, "That's the white man, and that's the black man finally on top." I said, "And the rat is smiling." That's what people go, "Oh, okay." Nobody pays attention right away to the fact that the rat is smiling, because the rat is basically saying you're on top, but it's only a temporary position, you know. So it's that's the way I was thinking. That's the way I still think. Uh yeah.
And then you had another album called Surfing in Harlem.
Yeah, which is a most difficult thing to do. It's like, I mean, where in Harlem can you surf unless you open some of those uh
Fire hydrants.
yeah, thank you. We need to be partnered up. Yeah. So uh it was like some unlikely stuff in there. Some things I just wanted to get off my mind. Songs, that is. I always wanted to do My Blue Heaven. And then I wrote this song about with the history of rock and roll. Can't think of the name of the album. I mean, yeah, I know the album is Surfing in Harlem. I can't think of the name of the song.
Right.
And yeah, uh, it's full of things that
But Surfing in Harlem is sort of just another example of you trying to cross musical boundaries.
right.
Surf music and Harlem music, which is no one else would think to put together. So
You didn't need me for this interview. You could have done it yourself.
hey, we're working together here.
Yeah, I like the
Wow.
way you
Okay.
describe my shit. Oh yeah, boy.
And then on this record, sorry you couldn't make it. I think both Jenny and Bon Iver are on this one too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
but
Sam Amidon.
that was what happened at the phrase that people ask me where did it come from. The record and the phrase are far apart time-wise, but it was in 1972 when Gary and I were up for Song of the Year, and we got a letter from BMI saying that they missed us, they were sorry they didn't, that we missed the banquet. And okay, the this is sorry you couldn't make it. And the thing was, we never knew about the banquet. Nobody told us about the banquet. That's why we didn't make it. We were down there for the awards. Glenn Campbell was the host and all of that.
Mhm.
And but they sorry you couldn't make it. Yeah, okay,
Right.
sorry.
But
And
this album has two duets with John Prine. It
yeah,
has you and Jenny Lewis working together for the first time, and Bon Iver, Sam Amidon. It has probably your biggest song, "Don't Take Her, She's All I Got."
right.
And it's a very. Can you talk about that song? You wrote that with Gary, is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, and you had to hit with Freddie North, and
right.
it's sort of like a sequel to Arthur Alexander's "Move On."
Yeah, you
Um,
better move on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
talk a little bit about that song, why it's endured so long.
well, first of all, it was record. Billy Sherrill produced a minimum of 15 artists on that song, including two instrumentalists. Um, and was a comic version done by Shep Woolley. Uh, and yeah, he got a little pissed because after he did it, he sent it for approval because he had done so much to it, and he wanted half of it. It still came out, but they didn't push it because I mean, I'm giving you half of this for making a comedy version. And so that was, and I was an admirer of Shep Woolley, Purple People Eater and all that shit. I loved it. And see, I can remember these songs and records, but I can't remember who I was last night. It's like, don't get old. It's like, it'll come, if see you coming, boy, and they'll get ready and jump right on your ass. It's just,
So who was Freddie North?
he was
what
the
made
promotion man, uh, and the executive for, well, I'm going to say black music, but I guess all the music for Nashville Records.
Oh, okay.
He was in house, and uh, they listened to everything that Freddie had to say. And they were happy with the little sales that they were getting. Well, they were getting big sales with their gospel. Nashville was one of the biggest gospel outlets
Hmm.
for music.
Right.
And just about everywhere I would go uh, with my music, especially was I was looking for a distribution deal for my album, and Freddie, he spoke up. Most every place I would go to get a deal, there would always be a black guy or woman, but not too many women, just guys who would shoot the deal down because they thought I was possibly going to get their job. I didn't want a job, and he was like the first. They went out to meeting, kept me in there for about an hour by myself before they talked about bringing my company aboard. And Freddie spoke up for it. He says, "Hey, we need him, we want him." So I started the Mankind label, and as my thanks to Freddie, I took him in the studio and produced the album called Friends, which basically is supposed to be Friend, Don't Take Her, She's All I Got, but that wasn't, uh, that was, we were calling the song just Friends, really. But then people in the industry call it "Don't Take Her, She's All I Got." I said, well, hell, whatever anybody wants to identify with, we'll go with. So he was, that was my thanks to him. I was lucky to get him a hit, but we hit the chart like 3 times. Uh, we went up in the top 10 first time, and we hung around in the 40s and 50s the next 2 times, and then we, as most records, we disappeared. But his presentation on stage was, he had awful stage fright, and he, at the Apollo Theater, when they booked him in there, he like went out to the microphone and he started singing, and all of a sudden his face turned red as that shirt you got on, and he and I about the same complexion. And to see me turn red, hey, he just, and he couldn't finish his thing. He wasn't ready at all for success. He's a preacher now in Nashville, and audiences apparently don't bother him because he's reaching out for them.
And then what happened when Billy Sherrill got hold of it?
A guy by the name of Bob Tubert, who was heading up publishing administration for Nashville Records. He was a good friend of Billy Sherrill. He took the record over to Billy Sherrill and said, hey, man, I want you to hear something. You're going to like it. And Billy Sherrill listened to it and went just crazy. You can tell, I mean, the number of artists that recorded it, man, God, I'm trying to think of their names and so forth. But, well, Loretta Lynn, Conway Twitty, we were high up on the scale. The girl, she's great. Oh, hell. Can't think of her. I think she married Glenn Campbell.
Oh, Bobby Gentry?
No, not Bobby Gentry.
Tanya Tucker?
Yeah. Oh,
right.
She did a version, and it just goes on and on. There was a couple of instrumentalists that did it. One, he was hitting the charts all the time with, he played piano, and
Floyd Kramer?
Floyd Kramer.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. I think it was it.
What was it about the Johnny Paycheck version that clicked with made the record work?
I don't know. They actually, people were turning away from Johnny because he was so crazy, And I think that was just a relationship between Billy Sherrill and him. I got to know Johnny and party with Johnny, who partied hard. I couldn't handle it.
I think we covered a lot of ground. Jeffrey and I are appreciative of you coming on board, and we want to be among the first to wish you a happy birthday.
Hey, man, thank you.
And we wish you many, many more. And congratulations on the new record. It's Swamp Dogg Contemplates the Afterlife, and our listeners can find it anywhere they get their music. Thank you, Swamp. And it's time for breakfast. Go have breakfast.
Yes. I'm getting ready to do that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, thank y'all. I really appreciate it.
Wow. That guy is an interesting character. I mean, he's done so much that it's hard for him to remember it all, frankly. I mean, what do you take away from that conversation?
I've interviewed him before. I did a big story on him for American Songwriter. He's a great raconteur. He's very funny. He's just, he, in addition to being a really great artist, he's also a great character. And so he's perfect for this kind of a podcast, I think.
Yeah, great. Well, we thank you for all your support of Hard Rain and Pink Cadillacs. It's been a year. We have been here now 1 year, and it's all thanks to you And we thank you to our paid subscribers. And we have a lot more to come in 2026, the rest of 2026 and beyond. So thank you all from us, and we'll see you down the road a short ways.